Hey, everybody, welcome to Uproot, the podcast, a space that was created for us to have a holistic conversation about our health and our wellness. We're going to be looking from different perspectives, different angles, such as psychology, biology, and theology. The study of the mind, the study of the body, and the study of the Bible. I am your host, Eric Daniel, and y'all, I got to thank you for joining in to the very first episode of Uproot, the podcast. It has been a journey getting to this point, and I cannot start this thing without saying thank you. Thank you to everybody watching. Thank you to everybody that has supported and prayed for me and encouraged me to do this thing. Y'all, I wouldn't be here without you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the love and all the encouragement. And thank you for tuning in. You could literally be doing anything else and you decided to listen. So thank you so much for being here. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are watching from and whatever time you are watching. Again, I'm your host, Eric Daniel. Welcome to the Uproot podcast. So I want to start this podcast off with letting y'all know a little bit about me. I'm a son, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a singer, I'm a therapist, I'm a pastor, I'm a worship leader. Man, a lot. I hold a lot of titles, and we all do. But I will say this, if all those things were gone tomorrow, the one thing I would want y'all to know and remember me as is Eric was a child of God. He was a man after God's own heart. Y'all, I love the Lord. I love him. And I think, again, if everything was gone tomorrow, that's the one thing I would always hold on to, is that I'm a child of God. That's just who I am, y'all. I'm churchy. I love the Lord. And I'm going to incorporate all that within here, because that's just who I am. That's me. So yeah, I carry a few different titles, but you know, I want y'all to get to know me for me. And that's what this thing is about. It's about going on this journey with me, having conversation with others that are going through their journey as well. So some background about me. So this podcast, I said at the beginning that this podcast we're going to have conversation around psychology. We're going to have conversation around biology and theology. And so I really want to break that down so that we understand what this podcast is about. So I have a master's degree in marriage and family therapy, and professional clinical counseling. When you get these types of degrees, they're really generalist degrees, and we can really focus on anything regarding mental health. We can focus on anything regarding couples, relationships, marriages, individuals. I work with kids too. So this degree as a marriage and family therapist is what qualifies me to be able to speak on things related to psychology and mental health. And I think this is important to talk about. I'm not going to make these kinds of distinctions consistently throughout this podcast and throughout the journey of being on this podcast. But I think for our very first episode, it's very important to lay the ground, lay the foundation. And so for foundational purposes, I really want to talk about this point. And this is important because anybody, there's so many people that are out there right now sitting behind a microphone, sitting behind a camera, sitting behind a laptop, and spewing out information. And a lot of these people are not qualified to have these kind of conversations. If you don't believe me, just go look. People aren't citing their resources. Some people are just saying just anything, because when you sit behind a mic, when you sit behind a camera, it sort of gives you some type of merit that people will listen to you. And so I just want to lay some groundwork, some foundation on who I am and what qualifies me to be behind this mic and speak on things such as psychology, biology, and theology. And the very first thing, like I mentioned, is I'm a marriage and family therapist. I've gone to school. I have my degree as a marriage and family therapist. I've gone through the courses, the work that it takes to get to be able to call myself a therapist. The other thing, I'm a holistic health coach. I went through class, I went through training to become a holistic health coach, to be able to talk to people about their physical health. And I'm going to get into the reasoning behind that, or the journey into that as well. So that qualifies me to be able to speak on the biological aspect. And then lastly, I'm a pastor. I mentioned that I went to Bible college. I have a bachelor's degree in theology. I'm going to be working on finishing my master's degree in theology. And so I've studied the Bible. I have mentors that mentor me in the Bible. So I have some qualifications to be able to speak on the Bible. Again, I say this for a reason, not to boast about myself, not to put myself above anyone, but because of the information that's out there. We don't know the qualifications that people may or may not have to sit behind a mic and speak. One of the things, especially as it relates to psychology, that I say we really need to be careful of is pop psychology. Some people are just out here talking about random things as it relates to psychology because they feel like they can, but they don't always have the qualifications to do so. And so that's my reason for laying that foundation and sharing who I am and what sets me apart from other podcasts. What sets me apart is the qualifications that I have. What also sets me apart is this thing is Holy Ghost filled. This thing has Jesus on it. I believe so. And so that's what I bring to the table. That's what I bring to this podcast, and that's what I bring to my audience, to the people that are listening. I have the qualifications to be able to talk about this stuff. And now I do want to say this. Though I have these qualifications and I have the lived experience in all of these realms, I don't know everything. I do not know everything. And it's not my intent or my purpose to sit in front of this thing and act like I do, because I don't. I may be considered an expert in the field of mental health because of my master's degree. But even in that, I still have so much to learn, and I'm going on the journey to learn, to understand more things. And so me saying that doesn't necessarily, it's not me saying that I have it all together, that I have all the answers, but it's saying that there's something that sets me apart. Okay? All right, so that's the background about me, about who I am, about what brings me to be able to talk about these certain things. Now I want to talk about this thing right here. I want to talk about Uproot. I want to talk about Uproot, the podcast, and what has gotten me, what has led me to this journey right here. There's so many people that I have to thank. There's so many people that I have to give praise to and shout out. And I'm going to do that right now. The very first person that I have to give thanks to is my wife, my beautiful wife, Brittany Williams. She has been with me and has endured long conversations, throwing ideas to her and different things like that. And she has supported me throughout this journey of wanting to start this podcast. So, sweetie, I got to thank you. Thank you so much for being my support. Thank you so much for believing in this dream, believing in this vision, and encouraging me to move forward with it. I love you. The other person that I have to thank is my cousin sister. And when she sees this, she gonna know who I'm talking about. But my cousin sister, Kendra Amos, y'all, listen. So first of all, she has her own podcast. If you are looking for someone to dissect the word, to really teach the word, to give you application of the word, like today, like finding out what this scripture, what this passage is saying, and give you real life application about it today, I need y'all, after this podcast, I need y'all to go over and follow Create with Kendra. She is awesome. She's amazing. And not only does she host a podcast, but she has also launched her brand new business called Create with Kendra Life Coaching. She is going to be able to help you in so many different things with a Christian perspective on it. And sister, I believe in it. I believe in your vision. I believe in what you're doing, and I'm here for you, and I'm going to root for you, and I'm praying into your business. I believe that God's going to do amazing things for you, and I have to encourage you, and I have to give you a shout out and give you praise because it's because of our conversations that I'm doing this in this moment. And I wanna talk to you a little bit about that too. So a couple weeks ago, we were down in LA singing together, and the passage that we were at a conference, and the passage that the pastor was speaking from, I believe, was Acts 16, and it's about Timothy and Paul, or Timothy joins Paul and Silas on their ministry. I'll say that, and Paul had a vision that he was supposed to go to Macedonia, and they believed that this is what God was calling them to do, the work of the ministry. God was calling them to do the work of the ministry. And as they were going to different places, I think he was going to Asia and he was going to somewhere else. The Spirit of the Lord would prohibit them from going to said locations. But understand something, that even after Holy Spirit said, not there, they did not stop and give up on the vision altogether. They redirected. So no, you can't go to Asia. You're not supposed to go to Asia. So we're going to go into another direction. And that's exactly what they did. And the message that the pastor was saying, it was a great message. But the part that stood out to me was just get started. And the pastor had said it's easier to move something that's already in motion than something that's standing still. And he related that to how Timothy and Paul, when the Lord told them to move, they just started moving. They started moving, and even though they did not initially go in the right direction, they didn't stop and give up on it. They continued until the Lord moved them in the right direction. And that's what Uproot is about. And I'm going to share a little bit of that after I give these shout outs. But I had the conversation with my cousin, and I was just telling her, I want to start it, but I don't have this, and I want it to look like this, but I don't have this, and I want it to sound like this, but I don't have this. And there was so much that I was looking for and so much that I wanted. I felt like I needed to get this thing started. And she looked at me, she said, cousin, just get started. And it was like in that instant, in that moment, I knew it was time. It was time for me to get this thing started. And so, cousin, sister, I love you so much. Thank you so much for your encouragement. Thank you for pushing me and encouraging me to start this thing. Because I believe it's time. So thank you. The other person that I have to thank is my brother, Larry Anderson. Listen, I told him, hey, I want to start a podcast. So he's a producer and he has a production company, and it's called, I got to read it because I say it wrong. But it's Metatonia Production Services. And so my brother, Larry, I told him, hey, this is what I want to do. He was like, all right, so you're going to need this, you're going to need this, you're going to need this, and you're going to need this. Hooked me up, sent me some Amazon links, and pretty much like he got this thing so put together that all I need to do when I want to record a episode is I open my computer, go to the app, and I click the template, and it's ready for me. Like he got it set up for me. And so Larry, I have to say thank you. Thank you so much for helping me get this thing started. Thank you so much for like just believing in it, believing in me. Bro, I love you and I appreciate you so much, man. Thank you. Go check him out for any of your production needs, video production, music production, anything. He's your guy for it. The next person that I got to thank is my friend David Avalier. He is a friend of mine from New York. So back in 2020, when I first moved out to California, we were just having some conversation. He said to me, Eric, you need to start a podcast. I was just like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, I was like, why? He was like, bro, you have something to say and people need to hear what you got to say. I was like, all right, cool. Like, I appreciate the encouragement. I was like, yeah, whatever. I ain't really do nothing with it. Fast forward, 2024, I'm here. I'm here at this moment doing this podcast, we spoke a couple weeks ago, and I had said, bro, you remember when you told me I needed to start the podcast? Like, the time is now. I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to start. And so, we just had some conversation. He also hosts a couple of podcasts. So one of the podcasts is I'm Just a Barber. So he is a barber, and that podcast is geared around having conversation with other barbers. And then he has another podcast called Let Him Hear. That is a faith-based, Christian-based podcast where he also dissects the word and talks about the Bible and things of that nature. So go ahead and check him out. He's going to be a great encouragement and a great add to just you understanding and studying the Bible. So David, brother, I love you, man. Thank you so much for your encouragement. Thank you so much for speaking that word into me because I believe it was a word from the Lord because it's coming to fruition right now. So thank you so much, brother, man. I love you. All right. So those are the people I had to thank. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, brother. Thank you, sister. Thank you, all of my siblings. I love y'all. Thank you. Thank you for believing in me. All right. So to keep going, talking about Uproot. How did Uproot become Uproot? So as I said to y'all, I'm churchy. I love the Lord. So back in 2018, I got the name Uproot. I think I was in prayer. I'm not sure exactly what I was doing at the exact moment, but I got the word uproot. And so being the churchy person that I am, I'm thinking this is going to be, I knew it had something to do with healing and deliverance of something of that nature, but I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like. I'm thinking it's like this deliverance ministry where I'm traveling, going to different churches, and I'm casting out demons and all that stuff. And that's what I thought Uproot was about. And so I sort of like started creating the name and things like that and trying to like promote it, but it ain't really do nothing. And so if you didn't hear about it, that's why it ain't really do anything. But it is what it is, right? So I let it go. I let that specific dream or that specific vision go. And this is why that word for me was so profound when I was in LA, because I could have just given up on Uproot right then and there, but the Lord didn't see fit. Like I said, I let it go, moved out to California in 2020. I embarked on my journey in becoming a holistic health coach. I had Uproot that was connected to Super You. Super You is a business that's run by my friend, Dr. Carrie, who is a naturopathic doctor. And she uses she uses natural medicine to heal the body. She got me connected to this program, and I enrolled into becoming a holistic health coach, graduated from the program, and started taking people on their own health journeys for physical health. And so it was under Uproot Holistic Health Coaching. So that's what I did. It was successful. I had clients. I had people that, people that were messaging me on Instagram to get support with their weight loss journey and their health journey. It was successful, and it just wasn't doing what I thought it was going to do. So I ended up slowing down on Uproot, enrolled in school, and then I completely just let go in the sense I wasn't taking any more clients. I finished off the clients that I had and didn't take on any more. Fast forward to enrolling into graduate school to get my master's, and Uproot came back to me. And I'm thinking, okay, so Uproot is going to be like my business name, Uproot Marriage and Family Therapy, or Uproot Therapeutic Services, something like that. Still could be. And that's what my vision was then for Uproot, is to make that be my business for therapy. Well, it's interesting because, and I didn't really make this connection with the whole psychology, biology, and theology thing until a couple of weeks ago when I was in LA. I said, wait a minute. Uproot has literally touched all three of those areas. All three of those areas Uproot has touched. And it's exactly what I want to talk about. Like, that's what's important to me. Having a very holistic, well-rounded approach to health, because honestly, it's a balance between all of those things. It's a balance between the mind, the body, and the spirit. It's a balance between all that. And the truth of the matter is, most cultures, when they're talking about health, or when they're talking about wellness, they're talking about all of it. I think it's really our Americanized culture that tends to put things in silos, and we only talk about physical health, or we only talk about mental health, or we only talk about spiritual health. And the problem with siloing everything and talking about everything in their own silos, like I said, is you sometimes starve one or two because you're so focused on one specific area. Let me give y'all a prime example. In my church, folks, y'all gonna know exactly what I'm talking about, but I'm gonna give a couple. So let's say we have somebody who has diabetes, right? They're a Christian, they believe the Lord, they serve the Lord, all that good stuff, and they have diabetes. And for them, they're like, I'm believing God for my healing. I know that God's gonna deliver me and He's gonna set me free from the bondage of diabetes. But they still eating cakes and pies. They still having ice cream at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, still eating a whole bag of pork rinds in one sitting. We not gonna have that conversation. No, we having that conversation. So eating fast food on a regular basis, not eating any fresh fruit, vegetables, the living foods, not really engaging in that type of eating, but continuing to put junk in their body, drinking soda and juice, but afraid to drink water. But they're believing God for their healing. Now, don't get me wrong, because I know God to be a healer. I'm gonna get into my story a little bit later, but I know God to be a healer, and I also know in His Word that it says faith without works is dead. So people are so spiritually, I'm going to use the word, and it's not to offend anybody, but spiritually immature to sit here and believe that you could just pray and pray and pray for your healing in diabetes, but not willing to do the work to get healed. And you think God is just going to snap His fingers and you're going to be healed. I have a hard time believing that. And then we have, as a therapist, right? If I have a client who is telling me that they're suffering from depression, right? Some of the questions I'm going to ask is, well, what's your spiritual life like? What are your eating habits like? Are you getting enough rest? Are you exercising? Are you going to see your primary care physician and going to regular checkups, right? Because we need to take this holistic approach when talking about health and talking about wellness. Again, if you only focus on one thing, I can process through grief. I can process through depression. I can process through deep feelings of sadness, and I can process through all of that. But if I'm sitting here having a conversation with you and talking to you only about your sadness, but not getting to any of the other parts of wellness and health, I'm going to be talking to you until I'm blue in the face, and we're going to prolong the process. Right? But again, some coping skills when I do talk about depression, anxiety, I'm asking you, so how much time do you spend outside in the sun? How much time do you exercise a day, a week? What is your exercise? What are your eating habits looking like? How can we adjust some of those things while processing through the depression, while processing through the grief? What are some other things that we can adjust in life so that we can see some more progress and not see it so prolonged? Okay. So that's why I'm so passionate about having a holistic conversation about our wellness and about our health. We need to address the mind. We need to address the body, and we need to address the spirit. All three. We're triune beings. We're mind, body, and spirit. So we have to address mind, body, and spirit. It's so simple, but for some reason, we don't have these kind of conversations. And so that's what Uproot is about. It's for us to learn. It's for us to unlearn some things that we have been taught, some things that we have been seen, and we unconsciously or subconsciously started to re-engage in these habits or engage in these habits and causing a perpetuation throughout our family. It's time to have these kind of conversations. And so that's what Uproot is about. I truly believe, and I know it's in the Bible where it says we confess to God for forgiveness, but we confess to our brothers for healing. I want to have conversations so we can heal, y'all. I want to talk so that we can heal. I want to have some meaningful conversation with our brothers and sisters so that we can really heal. We heal in community. I think the more vulnerable, the more connected that we get with the people that are around us that we can trust, the more likely it is for us to really be healed. And so that's what this is about. I'm excited about all that to expect. I'm excited about all that's going to be happening with this podcast. But y'all, most of all, I'm excited about having some conversation. I'm excited about sitting with people and talking with people and discovering and uncovering where people are in their journeys. That's what excites me about this thing. And I'm looking forward to it. And I'm so excited, everybody. I am so excited. So I talked a little bit about like what to expect with this podcast. As I said, there's going to be guests that's going to be coming on, that's going to be sharing their stories and sharing their journeys. That's one thing to expect. The other thing to expect, I'm going to be introducing a segment at the end of each month called Ask the Therapist, where you can send in DMs, you can ask questions about therapy, about psychology, and we're just going to have conversation about it. I might invite some other therapists on to have those conversations with me because, as I said, I know things, but I don't know everything. I'm not a super genius, and I know that it's good to hear other people. And so I'm going to bring other people on to just talk about some of the questions that y'all might have. So that's something to expect from this podcast as well. And then just features. Like at the beginning, I talked about 3 or 4 people that are really doing some amazing work. All the people that have pushed me to get to this point are people that are doing the work themselves, that have their own businesses, have their own platforms. And so if you want to be featured, if you want to maybe send me a friend of yours that's doing some work too, send it in to me. Just shoot me a DM and we'll talk about the information that I'll need to make sure that they're featured here on this pod. All right. So that's it for the first episode, everybody. Again, I have to say thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. I am looking forward to seeing y'all here with me next week. I will be posting a new episode every Thursday. All right. Every Thursday, a new episode will be coming out. And so just be on the lookout for that. And I really look forward to seeing y'all the next time. All right, y'all. Thank you for watching Uproot the podcast. I'm going to see y'all later. Bye.